Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It's already 2021. Can you believe it? Hope you guys are well. Today we're going to be baking some sandwich bread. It's easier to do than you might think. So let's get right into it. First, let's activate the yeast. Pour the yeast and sugar into lukewarm water. Stir well. Let it sit for 5 minutes till it looks frothy like so. Measure out the bread flour and salt into a large bowl and mix well. Create a well in the middle and add the yeast mixture and the butter into it. Mix all these ingredients together until they form a dough. Cover and let the dough sit for an hour or so to allow the flour to hydrate thoroughly. Now for the fun part. We have to knead the dough to build up its gluten, so give the bread its structure. Pull the dough out onto a clean work surface and gather it into a rough ball. Here a bench scraper is your best friend. Grab the dough with both hands at a right angle to your body. Pick it up, twist and smack the dough down. Fold the end over. Repeat this process for at least 10 minutes. The dough may start off a little sticky, but it will gradually become less sticky as you work it. After 10 minutes, cover and leave the dough to rest for another 15 minutes, allowing the gluten to recover and strengthen. Repeat the kneading process for another 5 to 10 minutes. Remember, lift, smack and fold. Now we need to test to see if the dough is ready. We do this by looking for the gluten window. Cut off a substantial portion of the dough, allowing it to stretch out in your hands, like so. The dough needs to be able to stretch and form a thin, see-through layer. This is the gluten window. If the dough doesn't stretch out and tears easily, carry on kneading for another 5 to 10 minutes. Put the dough back together and knead a few times to make sure it is fully incorporated. We now need to form the dough into a ball with a tight skin. Start with your hands on either side of the ball. Twist your hands and pinch them together under the dough. You should see the surface tighten as you do this. It does take practice, so don't be discouraged. Use a tablespoon of oil to coat the bottom and sides of the bowl. Roll the dough in the oil to ensure it's fully coated. We do this to ensure our dough doesn't stick to the surface of the bowl while it's proofing. Cover and place it in a plastic bag to ensure it doesn't dry out. Place it in the fridge overnight or up to 72 hours. The next morning, your dough should have risen and you may notice large air bubbles beneath the surface. Flour your clean work surface and pour the dough out onto it. Oil or butter up your loaf tin if required. We're going to work the air bubbles out of the dough whilst forming it into a rectangle that's the width of your loaf tin. Roll the dough up tightly. You notice that we do one roll, then pull it back slightly to tighten it before rolling again. Do what works for you and get it into a nice even roll and place it into the loaf tin, seam side down. Cover the dough and let it rise for an hour. Preheat your oven to 200 degrees C. Pop the loaf tin into the oven and bake for 30 minutes or until golden. Now look at that sexy loaf. Take the bread out of the tin and let it cool on a wire rack. You can check it's cooked through by tapping the bottom of the loaf. You should hear a slightly hollow sound. Nothing left to do but tear into some fluffy goodness. We love this bread with a bit of butter and some salt. or toasted with some cheddar cheese.
So we only started making our own bread during the first lockdown in 2020, and we actually started with a bread maker machine, which is a brilliant way to get going.
But if you like playing with recipes, baking bread in a traditional oven is actually a lot of fun, and it's very easy to do. We highly recommend making your own bread. There are many reasons why you should.
Number 1, you get to leave out all the extra ingredients that go into a commercial loaf. Things like dough conditioners, enzymes and emulsifiers for food conditioning and food preservation.
Number 2, you get to customize and control your recipe. If you want it to taste a little bit richer, you can use milk instead of water. You can add nuts and seeds.
Number 3, it tastes way better than commercial store-bought bread. So commercial bread is all about fast production. But if you're baking at home, you're able to long ferment your bread, and that gives you just so much better flavors.
And finally, it's just satisfying making your own bread. Your whole house smells of freshly baked bread.
We hope you get to try it out, and if you do let us know how it goes in the comments below.
As always, we hope you're staying safe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!
Bye!